Right, good evening everyone. Welcome to this Executive Cabinet meeting. Apologies for being a little bit late. I've been scrutinised in full. First item of business is apologies for absence. I've got Councillors Terry Howarth and Margaret France are not here. Have any other apologies? Right, okay, thank you for that. Any declarations of interest that anybody's got at all? They want to declare? No. Right, item 2 is the minutes of the meeting held on the 20th of March 2025. They've been circulated. Has anybody got any comments on that? Would somebody like to propose that those are taken? Thank you, Councillor Murray. Seconded. Anybody? Well done, Adrian. Thank you. All those in favour, please show. That's carried. Have we any public questions?
Not received, Chair.
Thank you. First item of business proper then is item 4, which is Peter Wilson, and it's the revenue budget outturn. Peter.
Thank you very much. So the report outlines that we have a underspend of £420,000 at the end of the quarter, which, as members will recall, previously throughout the year we've been reporting overspends, or projected overspends, and that has thankfully changed in the right direction. The biggest factors there, as it says in paragraph 7, are the underspends around the pay award, which of course we did anticipate would be greater than it actually was, the staff vacancies, and then the treasury management as well. So in terms of the money that is the underspend, it's earmarked there £200,000 to go to the transformation and savings reserve, and the rest going into the general pot. So other than that, Chair, there's nothing radically changing in terms of the forecast. The individual departments, directorates rather, as to where the overspends and underspends occur are then detailed in the rest of the report. I think members can see that some of those common themes, perhaps some newer ones as well, but there's nothing in there that's to sort of set alarm bells ringing. And then generally, as I mentioned about the reserves, you can see there on page 22, the general balance at 4.3 million, and then the earmark reserves, which just stand at over 7.5 million. So that's the state of the finances at the end of the quarter.
Thank you, Peter. Any comments or questions or points anybody would like to make? No. In that case, Peter's made the recommendations noted in paragraphs 2 and 3. Somebody happy to second those, please? Thank you, Councillor Hilton. All those in favour, please show. That's carried. Thank you very much, everybody. Right, item 5 is the accompanying capital and balance sheet outturn. Councillor Wilson again, please.
Thank you, Chair. So again, the capital report shows us that the capital requirement, as it were, has gone down from the previous projection, and the £3.6 million to the programme, the amendment is detailed later at point 12. As it says in the report, this is primarily due to the change to reprofiling of schemes in terms of timing of delivery. So it's not that schemes have been dropped, as it were, or that they're not being delivered. It's just that it's a question of timing and delivery, and when they are what year they are financed. But that sets out there in the table. That's at point 12. So again, members can see where that variation comes from. And then again over the page, the same principle. So again, there's details there laid out in terms of the individual schemes, in terms of where they are up to in terms of the capital programme. Moving on to the collection of business rates and council tax, we see again that those are almost identical to previous 12 months, if not slightly better on business rates. And in terms of our borrowing, again, you can see there at page 39, the total borrowing, again, quite similar compared to where we were this time last year, and there's some small variations, but the net cost is slightly down in terms of the borrowing, which is mainly because we've done better on our investments effectively.
Okay, thank you for that report as well. Any comments or questions on that report anybody's got? Looking online, can't see any hands up. In that case, the proposals are made in paragraphs 2, 3 and 4 of the report. Anybody seconding that, please? Thank you, Councillor Lowe. All those in favour, please show. That's carried. And we carry on, Councillor Wilson, with you, which is item 6, which is the Chorley Q4 performance report.
Yep, thanks, Chair. Again, as the report outlines, its performance is very good. So we've got 95% of our projects rated as green or complete, 89% of the strategy measures and 83% of the key service measures, again, on target or rated accordingly. In terms of the progress that we've made, just worth highlighting a couple of points, if I may. First of all, the bus shelter programme has been completed. We've made reference to that in the past at these meetings, but Councillor Lowe and his team have moved at pace to replace our bus shelters through the borough. We continue to make good progress with the local plan, which of course you're well aware of, Chair, with your job of work on the various committees to make sure this is delivered. The destination management plan has been launched, and again we've had good feedback from stakeholders and others in terms of the branding that we're putting out there. The clear message that Chorley is the best in, or everything, in one place. Well, I can't say it right now. I've just completely lost it. Best of Lancashire all in one place. That's right. Thank you, Chris. So it must be. It has gone down well actually. So again, it's sort of capturing the imagination. We continue to deliver on the Jobs and Skills programme with 14 grants delivered. We continue to do a lot of work on the cost of living action plan, such as the Household Support Fund, the food programme, Handy Person and the Warm Spaces initiative. So there's a lot of good work that's continued to be delivered and reaching out to hundreds, if not thousands of people throughout the year. In terms of where we're off target in terms of projects and measures, the the only project rather rated as amber is the effectiveness of social housing operations, and as it says in the report, this is largely due to the technology with Select Move not functioning as it should have been for a number of months now. Something that we're very well aware of, and our officers and members are very keen to make sure is addressed as a matter of priority. So we are still having those discussions, but it is important that it functions correctly for our residents. In terms of the indicators off track, NEETs, the target there for the percentage of 16 to 17-year-olds not in education, employment or training, that is again off track. We have seen a lot of work in this area and a lot of analysis as to why that is the case. There is a general increase across the county on this now. It's not that we are an outlier, not that that makes it any more palatable, but it's not that we are sitting on our own. But we have launched a new initiative just recently, working with schools and the county council, but that only started in the sort of third week of May, so obviously we can't report on that success, but that is really trying to drill down into this cohort of people and do everything we can to get them into jobs or training accordingly. And then there's the other body of work which Councillor France isn't here today, but is very keen on, which again rightly so is the work to identify people who may potentially become NEETs, but identify them at a much earlier age, and that I think is probably seen as the actual best long-term fix to this solution. But again, there is work going on there. Like everything, there is just so much more that can and probably should be done. The other measures, we've got median workplace earnings. Again, that is slightly below, but just to remind members, that measures what people who actually work in Chorley, their median earnings, not median earnings of everyone who lives in Chorley. So we just need to have that differential. But again, we can see that actually there has been sort of a slight uptick there, not as much as we want, but there has been a small improvement. And then in terms of working days, loss to sickness absence, again, we see that going up slightly compared to the last time we measured. There's no obvious one standout reason for that in terms of one area or one type of sickness, but obviously it's always concerning. However, it is worth noting that if we take an average of all of 30 councils of different sizes and shapes, as it were, we are below the average. So I don't think it's a point for alarm, but it's a point to note and obviously work on, and hopefully it will come back down. That's all, Chair.
Okay, thank you. And just in support of that, myself and Councillor Beach were at a presentation last week from Lancashire County Council officers, which unusually for me, I was enthused by Lancashire County Council officers around their work on NEETs as well, which I think is allied with what we're doing, will be very beneficial, and I was quite impressed by some of the things they were trying to do. Let's hope we can do it as a collective. Any questions or comments on anything in that report? Anybody's got to raise? No. In that case, the proposals are that the report be noted, Everybody happy with the reports noted? Excellent. Right, and item 7 is still you, Councillor Wilson. You're on a roll.
Lastly, but no, mine's least for me.
Let's hope so.
Thanks.
Recruitment and staff retention.
Okay, so yes, the report outlines the work undertaken following the scrutiny work. So we had a scrutiny task group set up and took various pieces of evidence from September 23 to December 23 and made a number of recommendations around retention and recruitment. And you can see there from the report, which highlights the progress made in terms of recruitment. We've done a significant amount of work. We have a new strategy in place. And you can just see there at point 9 how effective that's been. We've reduced the time to fill vacancies. We've significantly increased the number of external applications we receive, and we've significantly increased the number of internal applications we've received. And we've seen that in terms of the quality that we get. And of course, that's been recognised as the strategy won the Best Recruitment Practice Awards, which is obviously a big boost. So congratulations to Holly and the team for all that work. In terms of the retention elements, we can see over the page on page 73, again, the recommendations that came from the task group have been acted on or are being acted upon as we speak. So we've got the issue around the real living wage. We do pay that to our employees and to our direct contractors. Obviously, we are looking at where those contractors subcontract and subcontract again, looking into that to see if we can actually make sure that all those are covered. But we will report back on that. On the health and wellbeing, again, a number of actions have been taking place there to support staff and improve the service that's on offer. We've also been making sure that we look at the exec member get reports back about recruitment and retention, which again was another of the recommendations. And basically, we are continuing to do what we can to fill those vacancies. Certain departments struggle more than others. As it says highlights in the report, there are some challenges at digital, there's been some challenges at building control. Where you get specialists, it's very difficult to keep them, let's call it like that, because obviously people will inevitably look to move on, and fair play to them. And we should take pride in the fact that we train up quality people to keep the challenges, to keep doing it and keep bringing through the conveyor belts and recruit accordingly. So everything's like everything. There's some challenges along it, but there's a lot of success, and happy to present this report, and hopefully we'll continue with the good work.
Okay, thank you, Peter. And again, just to back up that report, the recent peer review that we received had the initial findings from that were backed up some of that analysis as well, in that the general vibe of staff was that they were happy and or content, and that there wasn't any specific issues around recruitment and or retention other than people moving on to better jobs, which is a success for Chorley in my view as well. Any comments or questions on Councillor Beach? Are you not working, Councillor Beach?
Yeah, I'd like to echo the thanks to Holly and her team. I was one of the chairs of the task group that looked at this, and she did a phenomenal amount of work, so it would be remiss to not congratulate Holly. Just under the accreditation, how far off are we from getting accredited for being a living wage employer?
Just looking page 4, paragraph 14, basically looking to come back by September this year, one way or another.
Okay, yes, Councillor Molyneux.
No.
Can you turn all?
Yeah.
Thanks, Danny. How kind. Just want to say it's good to see such a comprehensive report following a scrutiny task group, because it's just highlighting what we've been discussing earlier tonight. So thank you for that report. Oh.
Not to upset you too much, Peter, but chances are you're going to have to account for it for the next 5 years, according to what they've just been telling me in that other room, but we'll see what happens.
Never a problem.
Sometimes. Right. Any other questions or queries on that report? I can see any other hands up. In that case, we are asked to accept the recommendation in paragraph 2, which has been proposed by Councillor Wilson. Somebody happy to second those, please? Thank you, Councillor Hilton. All those in favour, please show. That is passed and carried. Thank you very much. We move on to the Councillor Hilton item 8, which is the allocation of community infrastructure levy, SIL funds and amendments to the infrastructure funding statement.
Thank you, Chair. So I'm pleased to present this report, which is seeking Executive Cabinet approval to allocate SIL monies to identified infrastructure projects across the borough. SIL can only be used to fund infrastructure projects included on our infrastructure funding statement, which I'll refer to as IFS. The methodology of this has been published in the report. So officers have undertaken a consultation process, both internally and externally, and they have to do that at least once a year. So that last consultation took place between the 13th of January and the 5th of February 2025, and we identified 6 projects that need to be added onto the IFS. Those projects are mentioned in paragraph 15 of the report. We also received an additional request for SIL funds for Chorley Health Centre, which was already on the IFS, and they've already had phase 1 of the project, about £250,000 as phase 1. However, they require additional funding for phase 2 and to finish off phase 1. The NHS set out lots of information about exhausting other funding streams, and therefore have come back for SIL money, so we believe that's appropriate. We have lots of residents and members complaining about lack of infrastructure with building, and lots of people include doctors, surgeries in that, so this is part way to addressing those issues there. So, as I said, all bids were addressed against the methodology for allocation of SIL. Reports have been presented to SMT and lead a brief, and all bids were supported. There was a query about parking at the health centre, but the NHS noted there's limited hard standing to put additional parking in, but they do consider it a sustainable location and there are local car parks nearby. So the report seeks approval to allocate a total of just over 1.9 million to strategic SIL, which I will support fully. A further round of allocation is expected to take place later this year, with potential future projects included within the report. This will leave just over £7 million in the pot after we've spent the 1.9 million of SIL money. I do recognise that this round of allocations was pretty much town centre centric. However, previous SIL applications have been all around the borough. So the Wigan Lane Archery Scheme, King George Pavilion, Gillett Field enhancements, Astley Village Shopping Centre, etc. And the report also highlights a number of potential schemes for the next round of SIL funding. So Harrison's Farm allotments in Adlington is mentioned, King George Play Area, Yarrow Valley Play Area, Abbey Village Play Area, and Hurstbrook Play Area in Coppell. Members are also welcome to share ideas about future infrastructure projects with officers, so by all means speak to myself, to Gail and the team, and we'll take that forward and assess it through the appropriate methodology. So the report this evening is to agree to allocate £1.9 million or just over spending to strategic SIL, and I'd like to thank the officers for all the hard work on the report and happy to take any questions. Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you, Councillor Hilton. That was a good report. Any questions or comments on that report at all? Quite a lot of detail in there, but the end of a long process, I think. Anything at all? No, I can't see any hands up. So in that case, we are asked to accept the recommendations in paragraphs 2, 3 and 4, which are quite detailed. They've been proposed by Councillor Hilton. Is somebody happy to second those? Thank you, Councillor Lowe. All those in favour, please show. Good stuff, that's done. And we then move on to item 9, which is the update to the council tree policy. Councillor Lowe.
Thank you, Chair. To seek Cabinet approval for the updated tree policy. The current tree policy requires updating to improve clarity for residents and to define the Council's responsibilities more precisely. If members look at paragraph 6 onwards, it aligns frequencies and service level agreements across the Council's operations. It demonstrates our commitment to being a good neighbour. The key improvements are highlighted at paragraph 8 of the report. Appendix 1 is the revised policy and Appendix 2 is a summary of the key changes. So with that, Chair, I'm happy to move the recommendation that we approve the updated tree policy.
Thank you, Councillor Lowe. Has anybody got any comments on the proposed update to the council tree policy? I think there are clauses in there that probably cover most scenarios, but as we're all aware, trees can be an issue at times because they change their shape and issue, you know, all the impact that they have as a result of that. But it's a live policy and we need to keep updating it. Any questions? No. In that case, we're asked to accept the recommendation in paragraph 2. That's proposed by Councillor Lowe. Somebody second that for us, please. Thank you, Councillor Murray. All those in favour, please show. That's passed. The next item is to exclude the public and press, so we can move into part 2 papers, confidential papers. So I will make the proposal that we exclude the public and press. Can somebody second that, please? Thank you, Councillor Wilson. All those in favour, please show. That's done.